Joining me live now is our political editor, Andrew Clennell. Andrew, your guest coming up is Annika Wells, the Minister for Aged Care. First, so let's turn our attention to the big news, concerning news for our government and the region around Taiwan.
Morning, Kieran. Yes, well, Foreign Minister Penny Wong gave a strong speech on Friday at a meeting of the East Asia Foreign Ministers in Cambodia, with the minister feeling she really needed to express the horror of Australia towards the missile tests and other exercises that China has conducted in the Taiwan Strait. And of course, those exercises came after the visit of US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan. The Foreign Minister spoke at the forum in the closed-door session of deep concerns about the missile launches, 5 of which have occurred in Japan's exclusive economic zone. She called them disproportionate, excessive and destabilising, and called on China to stop, urging restraint and de-escalation. The minister emphasised that there was no change to Australia's One China policy and Australia's support for maintaining the status quo across the Taiwan Strait. And she again called for a following of the international rules-based order, expressing concern about the militarisation of the South China Sea. Overall, the Australian government's approach has been not to comment publicly on the controversial Pelosi visit, but the government is concerned about the activities that have occurred in retaliation and that something might go astray. And the Foreign Minister wanted to speak up for Japan in particular. The Australian government believes that the US, Australia, Japan and ASEAN countries speaking out against such military moves by China, something which occurred at the forum, serves to show China there is a cost for such action and hopefully can deter President Xi, from escalating matters. Australia thinks that given the Pelosi visit, the Chinese reaction was not unexpected, but was over the top, Kieran.
Andrew, I mentioned at the top of the program a successful week for the government, including the passage of the much anticipated climate bill through the lower house.
Well, it was a big moment for the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese last week when he managed to get the climate change bill through the House of Representatives. This is legislation enshrining Labor's emissions reduction target of 43% less emissions than 2005 levels by 2030. Greens leader Adam Bandt met Albanese on Monday and continued to press him for more concessions in the legislation, such as the cessation of oil and gas projects, but Albanese said he wasn't moving. In the end, Bandt announced publicly he would support the bill, which also ensures its passage through the Senate. The position of Albanese was that he was prepared not to proceed with the legislation if need be, as the target has already been given to the UN. But business wants the certainty of the legislation, and had Bandt balked at supporting it, he would have been in an invidious position, with the Greens able to be blamed for blocking climate action as they were in 2009 after holding up Kevin Rudd's ETS legislation. The legislation also allowed the government to sell the image of a collaborative parliament, with several so-called teal independents able to move amendments and the government happy to let them do so.
This is a honeymoon period for the government, and in my view, the rubber hits the road, though, Andrew, with some major economic moments coming up over the next couple of months.
There are a couple of big economic moments coming for the Albanese government. First is the Jobs and Skills Summit on September 1 and 2. Treasurer Jim Chalmers announced at the weekend that he wanted to invite opposition leader Peter Dutton. Like with the invitation of Dutton to the Garma Festival in the Northern Territory for the Voice announcement, the opposition leader will decline. His view is such invitations are stunts. And certainly the government seems keen to attempt to isolate the opposition leader. The other big moment, as we know, is Jim Chalmers' first budget at the end of October. Australia's trade balance, it was reported late last week, is better than it has ever been, thanks to the increased sales of gas and coal, courtesy of the Ukraine war-inspired energy crisis. This means that even before Jim Chalmers and Finance Minister Katie Gallagher get stuck into their cutting of so-called rorts and waste in the budget is in a lot superior position than the deficits of $43 to $78 billion predicted for the forward estimates in March. On Friday, the Treasurer released a consultation paper on his plan to crack down on tax from multinational companies, a measure he says will save the budget $1.9 billion at least.
Andrew, on a very different front, the The Biloela family has got a permanent visa now, so the government's moved very quickly within 3 months to deal with this long-running matter.
Yes, quietly on Friday afternoon without fanfare, just before Prime Minister Anthony Albanese went off on leave, the Biloela Nadasingalam family were given permanent visas and allowed to stay in Australia permanently. The government did not want to make a fuss about this and have a minister stand up on it or anything of that nature, but they wanted it announced before the PM went on leave. The government wants its delivery of the decision to go along with the theme of it getting on with governing.
And before your interview now with Annika Wells, the Aged Care Minister, we spoke about the climate bill. That was a win, but the aged care reforms, they're going to be difficult, but the first steps have been taken too.
And more steps after that legislation coming this week. During the week, the government will be submitting to the Fair Work Commission on aged care workers' salaries. It is my understanding the government will not put a figure on how much their salaries should increase by, but believes that the workers are severely underpaid and perhaps in need of a pay rise in the double digits.